Welcome back to the Dividend Diplomats YouTube channel, guys. You've got Bert, the Hurt, and Lanny, your favorite dividend investing channel out here on not just YouTube, but all of social media channels, guys.
Yeah, let's jump in, everybody. Smash that subscribe button. Give this video. Boom! Thumbs up. Help your boys get to 20,000 YouTube subscribers so we can have a nice giveaway. We can make a stupid 20,000 subscriber video like we did for the 10,000. Let's get right in. Let's talk dividend stocks. Let's get to financial freedom.
So today, guys, there's a certain dividend king that, I know Bert owns. You guys probably maybe own out there. Maybe you think it's a taboo stock and you stay away from it. It's not it could be a sin stock. Going, we're not talking about tobacco or pharmaceuticals today, but some might consider it for the other con on the health side. But I wanted to talk about a
That's
dividend king because I'm looking at possibly doing a larger purchase into this stock and really wanted to see what some other metrics outside of our dividend diplomat stock metrics, which is the price to earnings ratio less than the S&P 500, 2 dividend payout ratio, 3 dividend growth. Last, we look at the yield. We're going to really take a look at what's revenue been like over the last 5 years, what's net income done over the last 5 years, what about shares outstanding, how have the profit margins averaged out over the last 5 years. So we're really going to take a look at that because, again, if I'm looking to make a sizable position, we're talking a few thousands of dollars, that I might want to allocate to this one stock. I really want to make sure it's the right one.
Yeah, so this will be a fun deep dive into this company here. It'll be interesting to see because we don't always dive into the income statement this way. We don't always dive into there to see the growth. So it'll be really fun to dive in and see and look at some of the averages here. And then also just say, is it sustainable too? I think that's also a fair question of what we have to peel back the layers and talk about, especially with the dividend king like this company.
So from a well, let's say this. All right, guys, we're talking about Pepsi. Ticker symbol P E P. The competitor to Coca-Cola. Again, they got the beverage, they've got the snacks, they've got a dominant presence internationally as well. So, Bert, let's go down a little bit of a walk path on revenue growth for this stock. You know, back in the day in 2019, they had 67.2 billion in revenue. Fast forward to the end of 23, where are they at?
They are at 91.47 billion revenue. They're almost in that 9-digit revenue club.
Oof, which is impressive. I mean, adding 24
No,
billion
wait,
in
not
revenue.
9-digit, 12-digit. I forgot a couple of zeros on there.
Well,
Geez, that's
uh,
embarrassing.
no. I mean, I think you're fine, actually. Well,
Yeah, they're closing in on 100 billion in revenue, which is wild. So it would start at 67.91. So what does it put that 5-year average growth rate here, Landy?
7.24% growing top line revenue. In my opinion, from a consumer snack beverage company, pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would agree. And that's especially in this high inflationary area, but they were even growing it at a large clip before the high inflation hit. So it's not just because they're raising their prices. They found ways to increase the volume, get more stuff out there, and just overall better their product.
yeah, I mean, we get into net income though. It's the bottom line kept up with the top line. That's going to be the interesting part. In 2019, they actually had net income of $7.3 billion.
Yeah.
And Bert,
And
fast forward.
9.074 billion. So that's huge growth as well. That's 4.81% on a 5-year average growth rate too.
So it hasn't quite kept up with the top line, but at least you do have growth on the bottom line. You had a nice growth year in 2021 to 2022 from 7.6 billion to 8.9 billion. And then obviously it looks like margin was slightly squeezed in 2023, obviously trying to not, from the price and cost standpoint, trying to probably battle on both ends really there.
Yeah, and that's what I think is fascinating. Like looking at this is it's clear that they didn't pass every cost on to the consumer. It wasn't a one for one. So they're trying to find that balance of how much can they raise prices to offset increasing costs without putting themselves out of the market for consumers. Because their products, there will be a tipping point for consumers. And that is the concerning thing with Pepsi, with some of the fast food places as well. There's only so much you can increase your prices and people still buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Where they, oh, yeah, that's only 5 cents more, but I'm sure they've been doing some shrinkflation here and there within their potato chips,
I'm
and
sure. Absolutely, they are. You squeeze take a couple ounces out of there. The cans are a little bit smaller for the soda. They put in a little more
don't
air
even
at
get
the
me
top.
started again on that.
Yeah, we will save that for a Monday video. We'll have a shrinkflation conversation from that. That would be a funny one. The most egregious examples, like our top five most egregious.
Don't even get me on the frozen pizza rant here, guys.
We're gonna record this video. That's gonna be a funny. That'll be a fun. All right.
All right, so now let's get into the
Yeah.
profit margin now. So back in 2019, they had about a 10.89% profit margin. Fast forward to 2023, have they been able to keep that
No.
up?
No, it's at 9.92%. So it's decreased nearly 100 basis points.
Yeah, and it seems like they really are trying to stick to about a 10% profit margin because
Yeah.
it's dipped below 10% like in 2021. Um, but it seems like they're kind of hovering around that 10% margin, which hey,
Yeah.
seems like if I saw like 7%, I'd be very concerned.
Yes, I would
But
agree.
being they're still kissing 10% here, that's not bad.
No,
Uh,
no.
what about their share buybacks? What about the outstanding shares?
Yeah, it's interesting to look at the share buyback, see if they're allocating capital to reduce shares, increase that EPS, et cetera. It's also could be a sign that management thinks their stock's heavily undervalued too if they start buying it back. From there, in 2019, they had what 1.399 billion, Lanny, of shares outstanding. So where do they stand here in 2023?
They're not big, it looks like, on the share buybacks because they're still at 1.376 billion shares outstanding. So a decrease of only 0.33%. So not even a percent. So over 5 years.
Interesting. Yeah, they don't really allocate that much to it. I think that's fascinating. Let's move up though on the balance sheet out of the equity section into the liability section here, Lanny.
Let me correct myself. They have decreased shares 1.64%, but on average, only 0.33% of a decrease.
Noted. Let's talk debt. Obviously, debt's one of the biggest topics right now. As interest rates are climbing. Debt's done some bad things to our dividend income by companies that were over levered and and had to cut that dividend. So, what was their debt in 2019, Lanny, and where does it stand now in
This
2023?
is interesting because I will have to include like another year here. So in 2019, it was at 29 billion, and then in 2020 it goosed up probably to take advantage of low interest rates, possibly at to 40 billion, 40.37 billion. But what's it at now?
It's at 37.6 billion. So it's coming down. They're not aggressively paying it off, but they're not taking on more debt. They're decreasing it in the high interest rate environment.
Yeah, still over the 5 year pattern, you're looking at a nice average growth rate of 5.8%, and their debt level is actually up 29%
Mhm.
since 2019. So long-term debt is up. Now, granted, it's up, but they've also been able to generate $24 billion more in revenue since 2019.
That's true. So they're doing something right, and that's why we love Pepsi. So again, yeah, to your point, revenues up 7% on a 5 year average, net income's up nearly 5% on a 5 year average. Margin continues to hang around that 10% mark that we were talking about. Shares not really moving much. They're decreasing a little bit, but it's not a noticeable amount. You said 1.6% over 5 years, so small change. And then debt, while increased from where it was in 2019, it is down from its peak in 2020, which is what we're really focusing on.
Yep. And then, guys, we're going to quickly go through the metrics here. I'll do PE, payout. I'll hit DGR. 167.28 based on June 21st stock close, 817 forward EPS, 20.47. So 20 point times earnings. Not the cheapest stock, but not the most expensive. You kind of are okay with it here.
Yeah, and then their payout ratio, their annual dividend's $5.42. So your payout ratio is 66.34%, so a little bit above, a little bit above.
a little bit on the high side. 6.64% average dividend growth rate, which is fairly strong for a consumer-based driven stock, especially one as old and iconic as Pepsi. And they've been doing it for 52 years, dividend king status.
And they're down 3.26% year to date, which means the yield's a popping. So it's up 3.2 to 3.24%.
Yeah, the combination of a declining stock price plus a dividend increase earlier this year definitely makes the yield go up, guys.
Right.
Again, you have a 41% or 41 basis point margin to the 5-year dividend yield average. So you're getting some more yield than normal there. I like the company. I like the stock. You know, 167 is not is a fair price
Yeah.
to pay for Pepsi.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it. We're not looking for the cheapest value for stocks. If we were, Pepsi would never check that bar. But great companies demand great prices and great premiums. And sometimes when you can get them at a nice fair price like this, that might be below that great premium, that's your time to strike with a company like Pepsi.
Yeah. So again, I'd be interested in possibly adding shares at this price. I can do your own research. But what do you guys think about Pepsi stock? Is this a stock to buy right now, or are there other stocks on your watch list and other stocks that you're buying right now?
If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and remember, you're either with us or you're against us, Jack.
That was Bert, the Hurt, and Lanny from the DD over and out.